Welcome back, everybody. This is the Bluechip Breakdown, and I'm your host, Bull. Merry Christmas to you. Happy holidays, all that good stuff. Today, we're going to be talking about our Tennessee Volunteers moving forward. We all know really big loss, right? It was embarrassing as hell. We all know that. And we will kind of touch on some things that do need to be changed. But again, it's all about positivity. So I do want to hear y'all's thoughts. I know that a lot of y'all might be off today and, you're getting ready for the festivities with your family, but you probably want something just to, pass that time by and all that good stuff. So please do make sure to like and subscribe. The first thing that I want to talk about with y'all right here are some players that could be returning for Tennessee. And this is a list right here on the left. You will see the players that are expected to be returning for us next season. And this is actually coming from the insiders. So up at the top, we have Tyree West, who is a strong side defensive end. One of the better pass rushers on this team. He is the best defensive or the best strong side defensive end that we had this past season. I didn't think that he would come back. So that's big. That is a whole lot of depth. We all know that Jason Jenkins is planning on entering into the portal. I don't know if he is officially in there at this point, but it's good to know that Tennessee is still deep at that spot because also Don Bailey is expected to be returning for us next season as well. So we will still have some veteran talent at that position next season. And we got some really good youth that's ready to rock and roll. Some freshmen that will be coming in that I think can do some really nice things. But also there's some redshirt freshmen. There's some sophomores. There's plenty of depth up front. So I think that we should be good there. But let's also talk about Joshua Josephs at the Leo position. Now, he came in right behind James Pierce, for those of y'all that don't know, and he was very, very productive. Now, this is still very early, but it does sound like the insiders are expecting for him to return. That would be huge because now we've got him, and then we got Jordan Ross. And I told y'all after watching Jordan Ross's film, I said, man, listen, he looks like a bigger, stronger, faster James Pierce. So that's going to be big. And some of the changes that I want to see implemented will help him out, I think, just as far as pass rush goes, really will help all those guys out with the pass rush. And then we have Bryson Easton, that defensive tackle. I didn't think that he would be returning, but it sounds like he will. So defensive tackle, for me, was probably the biggest point of emphasis. It was probably the place where we needed the most help at in the transfer portal coming up this season because we're losing guys like Big O, like Big E, like Omar Norman-Lott, who actually it sounds like was suspended for the first half. Now, this is a change that I definitely think needs to be made with this staff. I don't know what Omar Norman-Lott did, but hey, he ain't mean it. He ain't mean it like that. You do not suspend a player in such a critical moment, in such a critical game, unless he just did something that was absolutely outrageous. I think that really hurt Tennessee. We got off to a slower start because he is the second best pass rusher on this entire team behind James Pierce from defensive tackle. We knew that the Buckeyes were missing – 2-3 of their, inside players up front. That was a spot, man, and we could have got a lot of pressure early on in this game. And I disagree with that. We've got to play the players that can play. If you see that your, fan base is bringing up so many people, man, come on, you got to do it for the fans. You got to do it for everybody, for all of our nation. And I disagree with that. So it's hard for me to, fully speak to it because I don't know what he did, off the field or, outside of the picture. But either way, you cannot do that in such a critical game. But it is good to know that we will have some depth at that position. I still think that Tennessee wants to try to go to the portal and add at least one more body. We'll talk about some of the players that Tennessee is targeting here in just a minute. But also, Miles Kitson, it sounds like he might be coming back next season too. So what we're talking about right now, y'all, is potentially the deepest tight end room in the entire country. We're going to have maybe Miles Kitson, if he wants to come back, he can because he did, go to JUCO. So the years that he spent at JUCO don't count towards his eligibility with D1 football. So that is really, really big. But we've got him. We've got, still Holden stays as long as he does, stay with this team. We have Ethan Davis. Man, look, we have Deshaun Brame. We have Jack Van Dorsalier. And then we have Cole Harrison. So five or six, however many scholarship tight ends. This will be the deepest tight end room that Coach Heupel has had since he's been up in Knoxville. It was the deepest one last season. This one's going to be even deeper. So I do think that there are some things that Tennessee can do by, running more 12 personnel, which I told y'all that I love. But you can also start to run some 13 personnel, which just means 3 tight ends. Most of the time you do that inside of the red zone and things like that. Our red zone offense should be able to pick up because we have guys that can block, that we can hand the football off to. We can use them as kind of like gadget pieces, but they can also run routes. And I think that within the tempo, kind of flexing guys out and mix and matching stuff, which is something that, Tennessee really needs to do a whole lot more of. I think that having this many tight ends that Tennessee needs to use, right? Like that's another thing. We have got to use more of our talent. We've got to stop just saying, hey, this person is older or this person's getting paid more in NIL. The best players need to play. So those types of changes, I think that Coach Heupel for sure is going to be looking inside of the mirror. Hey, what can we change? We saw that they wanted to run more 12 personnel from last season. That was a change that they made. But you got to stick to it in the most critical games. Stick to your strengths, play the best players. And, I think that hopefully we will see that moving forward. Now, we also are going to talk about Andre Carrick down at the bottom as a player that could potentially return. I have an asterisk next to his name because he would have to get that medical waiver. Don't know how realistic that is. I think that it could be very realistic. If he does come back, if you look over to the right, these are the transfer portal players. Number one, we know that Wendell Moy at guard, he is actually signed with Tennessee, so he will be playing for us. So that's one spot that is going to be, I think, pretty solid. Now, for me, he still needs to earn his spot, but I think just from what we've watched on film, because we did actually break that down, he is a player that should be able to come in and plug in either at left guard or at right guard. If Andre Carrick comes back, he could play on one of the other guards. But the next player, Josh Thompson from Northwestern, also playing guard. He's a player that played some tackle as well last season. And he played right tackle. Now, right tackle is the only spot to me that's still kind of like up in the air, I guess, at this point. We need to kind of find somebody there. I do feel like Lance Hurd is going to plug in at left tackle just like he did last season or this past season. And he didn't look great to start off, but once he got acclimated to our system, once he got himself in shape, he looked really good. And P and I were kind of like sharing clips back and forth from the Buckeye game. That same, Jack Sawyer, number 33, that was abusing the right side whenever he went to the left side. Man, look, Lance Hurd was burying him just like you're supposed to. He made him look how he's supposed to look. He made the other kid, JT, he made him look very, very average. And those guys were very average, but the offensive line has got to step up. So Josh Thompson, it does sound like he's trending towards our Volunteers. Sounds like we are in a very, very good spot. Now, will we bring him in to play guard? Or do we want to bring him in to fill the right tackle spot? So if he does come in and if we want him to play guard, does Andre Carrick want to, try to give it another go? Or does he want to see what he can do as far as pro football goes? Or does he want to do something else with his life? I'm not sure, but I would say this at the tackle spot. We already talked about Lance Hurd. I'm thinking that left tackle right behind him, it might be Larry Johnson. Larry Johnson has looked really, really good whenever he's played. I mean, he is a body mover. Like, he erases whole sides sometimes, and he looks good in his pass pro, especially later on in the season. But he's only played on the left side. I haven't really seen him play on the right side. So can he make that transition? It's not as easy as some of us might think that it is. But then we also have Jesse Perry, who will be a redshirt freshman. He looked really good, this past season whenever he got his opportunities playing at that position. But I also think that he's versatile enough, and so is Larry Johnson, and we could bump them in somewhere else if we need to. Shamrod Umarov, who I think looked really good, especially towards the end of the season playing at guard. He's another one that, we're adding depth there, but he could also play tackle. We actually got him to play tackle for this team. So a lot of depth. And then obviously we have David Sanders Jr., who, man, once he fills out, I think that he could definitely plug in on the right side at tackle. But he's already said several times that he doesn't mind playing somewhere else on the offensive line. So there's a whole lot of depth, right? There's several players that we could talk about. I think that Max Anderson looks really good. Gage Ginther, he's going to get it together. Aiden Bussell, he's going to have to pick some things up. And then obviously with guys like, Sat, William Satterwhite, who would be he's a freshman this season, but next year he would be a redshirt freshman playing at center. I love what I've seen from him, but we do have some people that we can kind of mix and match. So if we can add all these bodies, y'all, we're looking really solid, really deep. This would be the deepest offensive line, I mean, by far. I think just with the top end talent and then all the way down to some very strong depth really across the board that Coach Heupel has had maybe since he's been coaching. So we all know that was a huge problem versus the Buckeyes. It's been a problem in several big games where guys, whether they were out of shape versus Arkansas, just kind of like coming back with a month off and things just didn't look right there. Whether it's versus Georgia, and we can kind of go into some of the schemes. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds, not right now, but yeah, I mean, I think that obviously we are seeing that there is a major issue up front. Now, something else that we've talked about with the offensive line is the way that they're getting coached, the way that they're, to me, not getting better quick enough. I think that obviously that is on Coach E. Now, I don't think that Coach Heupel is going to be firing anybody. I honestly don't. I'm not calling for anyone to be fired. Let's make some tweaks. He needs to have some very tough conversations with all of his coaches on, hey, look, this is some things that need to be tweaked. We'll kind of, go more in depth with that, especially with the coordinators here in just a minute based off of our personnel. But I think that, maybe he can talk to a Danny White and say, hey, listen, We need some more money because I need to go out and get somebody that can specifically coach up our tackles, because I don't think that our tackles played well consistently enough. Now, Lance Hurd is such a just phenomenal athlete that he was able to pick it up, but there's still some things within his technique and fundamentals that need to be cleaned up. So I do think that we need to try to upgrade with the coaches that are specifically working with our tackles. Maybe go out and get somebody else from the outside. That's something that Coach Heupel definitely needs to do. Go target some people from outside of this system. You've got to be able to do that because it's getting so stale. But anyway, let's move on to some more players or to some more positions that I think Tennessee might try to target in the transfer portal. Wide receiver is probably going to be one. I don't know what's going to happen with Squirrel White. I've seen some things that, on social media, people are making a big deal about it. I don't know. It's very, very cryptic. Maybe he's thinking that he needs to go. I think that he is a very tough player. I love Squirrel. I would love for him to come back. But, I'm not going to sit here and say that he was overly productive this season. I'm just going to keep it real with you. I don't think that that's the case. So could we upgrade there? I think that maybe we could, you know what I'm saying? I think that Braylon Staley looked really good. I think that Mike Matthews would be good at that spot. We've got some young guys coming in too. To me, there might be other names that are going to hit the portal later on here, y'all, that we love, right? We love all these players, but sometimes, things like that has to happen for us to get better. I'm not picking on Squirrel or nothing. Again, I think that Squirrel can definitely get it done. There's a lot of things that we didn't do correctly. I believe in our scheme and our play calling. We did not play to our strengths enough to put our players in the best positions to win. So if Squirrel does come back, obviously I think that he will be able to produce more than he did in the previous year. But I do think the wide receiver, maybe more on the outside than even at slot. I think that might be what Tennessee wants to target because we really only have Chris Brazzell and Mike Matthews at this point that I could think of that could play on the outside. Obviously, we've got some true freshmen coming in, guys like Travis Smith, who I think is going to be really, really freaking good. But he is a true freshman. It seems like it's tough to pick this offense up. We got to be able to dumb things down so that we can get these freshmen out on the field. Rotate in more guys, okay? That's got to be a huge point of emphasis. So whether it's inside or outside, I do feel like wide receiver at this point is going to be a place that Tennessee is going to look to spin. Go get somebody that can ball, that can make things happen after the catch. I want a vet. I want somebody that can take the top off, all that type of stuff, and they need to be a dog. I don't want none of these, my favorite plays, me scoring touchdowns type. I want somebody that is a dog and is about the team winning and is going to make those tough catches. That's what I want. That's what Tennessee really needs, because if we can't do anything else, we need to have people who can win one-on-one coverage and that Nico can trust to, hey, if they're kind of covered up, I'll throw the football to them. They're going to make a play for me. That's what we need, because it does feel like our system and scheme and stuff, people are figuring it out. I don't know how much of that's going to change, but we'll talk about that some more in just a minute. Now, let's talk about safety. I think that Tennessee definitely needs to try to upgrade maybe here at safety. We've talked some about Jordan Thomas, who was playing at star. He's also played safety for us and corner, I want to say. He's played a lot of different spots. We have several players in the secondary that have played different spots. Coach Willie Martinez, his contract is up. I think that, again, he will be retained. So I don't know when that's going to happen, when he's going to sign his new contract, but it does sound like his is up. Sounds like Coach Mike Eckler, who is an outside linebackers coach and special teams coach, his contract might be up. I want him back. He's a high energy guy. You need to have people like that. He's a dog. It also sounds like Tim Banks has a contract on his desk. He's waiting to sign it. Probably wants to see what types of offers can he get, things like that. I would like to have him back. I know that I've talked before about maybe it's time for him to go. Maybe it'd be good if he did find a head coaching job. But he's been so solid. He's been so consistent. He just needs to kind of change a couple things, and we will talk about that. But I do think that just with our scheme, what we want to do is find a safety that can cover. Go out and find somebody. If we don't feel like we have that player on the roster currently, you've got to go get him. I don't care how much it costs. If you got to cut some folks, again, I don't want people to get cut or fired or nothing, but this is business and we want to win. So we have to kind of upgrade there. And I think that Tennessee might look at that position to do it. Now we're deep just as far as numbers go, but I don't know how deep we are from a, sheer talent perspective. Again, going back to Jordan Thomas, if you move him from star and let Boo play at star, or maybe you could move Boo Carter to safety and let Jordan Thomas play star, it doesn't really matter. But I think either one of those can help you upgrade and give you a player that you feel comfortable in man-to-man coverage versus anybody up at the line of scrimmage or playing off coverage, whatever it is. And we'll talk more about why that's going to be so important, I believe, for this team moving forward. I think that Andre Turntine's done some good things. Christian Charles has done some pretty solid things, and so has Kobe Thomas. But we do need somebody that's going to be really, really good in coverage. If the staff does not feel like they have that right now, if you don't see the player, I would say at least two players at one position, okay, or two players at each position that you feel like can cover out in space very well, then you got to go get somebody else. It's as simple as that. So let's come on down to the last position that I think that Tennessee might target, and that is running back. And the reason for that is, we're going to have Bishop coming back next season. We're going to have Peyton Lewis, and then we're going to have two true freshmen, Justin Baker and also D. Morris. I mean, I don't know how much you want to necessarily rely on true freshmen. Tennessee has typically only, up under Coach Sims, only rotated in two running backs. I think that we've got to get back to rotating in three. And even still, man, playing a running back, that's a spot where people tend to get banged up all the time. Bishop has been hurt, the first 2 seasons that he's been up at Tennessee. I think that we will try to go find somebody, maybe not spend too much money there, but, find you a veteran. And it's, I'm not going to say it's easy to find a running back, but it's easy to find a running back. You know what I mean? That's kind of like a dime a dozen. Just find somebody that I would say try to find you a bigger body player that can pick up blocks, that's going to run hard, that's going to take care of the football, that understands all that type of stuff. And I think the Tennessee will be in a good spot. But let me try to get to some of these chats. I see that there's a lot coming in. I'm going to take a little break from that right now. But let's see what everyone's talking about. From Boosted 931, hey, Bull, I'm like you. We need changes. Now the Sunshine Pumper, it's year 5. Also, Merry Christmas and go Vols. Thank you so much for that, Boosted 931. I'm glad that we are on the same page with that. And, hey, it's cool if you disagree. I think that that's the beautiful thing about having such a big family, right? Because to me, Vol Nation is family. We all have different thoughts, but we all want the same result. At least I think we do. We all want to win a national title. For me, it's multiple national titles. And I think that this team can get there. We've got the resources. We have the backing and all that type of stuff. We can do it. We just got to tweak a couple of things. So from Lamone's Jr., what's going on, Lamone? Saying, what's good, Bull? Glad to see you in the house. Also saying, good to hear Joshua Josephs is coming back. Let me also make sure that I point this out. This is not for sure. This is just speculation based off of the insiders that are very, very close to the program, a lot closer to it than I am. This is what they're saying. This is how they feel. A lot of this stuff is subject to change based off of, hey, do we have enough NIL money to pay some of those players on that left side and then bring in the ones that we would also need on the right side? How do we mix and match that? What does the roster look like to the staff? I think that they're probably going through all that right now, crunching those numbers, and I can't count nobody's pocket. So I don't know, but it does sound like those players do want to return. So that is a very, very positive thing. And if I'm the staff, you want to retain the good players that you've seen be productive inside of your system before you do anything else. Let's see who all can we keep first, and then let's try to bring in some more from the outside. Now let's see from Tater saying, I've noticed that my opinion and thoughts match up with yours or with your all thoughts more than other channels. Something has to change. Others act like change is the wrong move. I can't vibe with that. Yeah, I mean, and thank you for that. I'm glad, again, that we are on the same page with it. But, yeah, I mean, you can never just stick to the same stuff. And I get it, man. We went through a couple of decades of some really bad football with this program. And that doesn't mean that, hey, as soon as we find a little bit of success, that we're just going to sit back on our hands and say, well, hey, this is good enough. And I wouldn't be saying that too many things need to change, I guess, in the way that I'm doing it, if we hadn't got blown out. Us getting blown out is inexcusable. We got blown out there. I wouldn't say that we got blown out versus Georgia, but that's a game that, in the second half, we just didn't show up. Definitely shouldn't have lost to Arkansas. We still have those road woes, and we've got to play Florida and Alabama on the road next season. We know how tough it is for us to beat Florida. We could go back to the Alabama game from last season. In the second half, we laid an egg. South Carolina back in 2022, no excuse for that to happen. And then too, like if you couple that with the fact that some of y'all may have seen this from, I think it was A to Z Sports. They put out the article just kind of highlighting a few different players and coaches talking about how predictable some of the stuff that Tennessee's doing offensively and really even on defense. We talked about this before with Georgia's offensive lineman coming out and saying, well, we knew whenever the stunt was coming based off of the way that 1 foot's back and all that. We've got to be able to self-scout a lot better. The offense has got to, we've got to switch some things up because people are starting to figure it out. And if you actually go back to the Oklahoma game, after that game, I was happy with the win, but I was a little bit sour. And I know that people were kind of on me for that, but I saw something. And what I saw is that, man, look, this offense, there's ways to stop it. And I'm not seeing no counters to it. That's a big problem. And that's not necessarily like a personnel problem. I know a lot of folks want to point to different spots and say, I would say outside of the offensive line, especially last week, that's a huge one. If the offensive line can't, at least protect for, a couple of counts, I mean, you ain't going to be able to do really nothing offensively. So that was a big part of the problem. But I would say that just with our scheme, there's a lot of things that we are about to get to that can be upgraded, that needs to be tweaked. You know, you don't have to make wholesale changes, but you've got to make some serious tweaks here and there. And a lot of it, to me, that I'm a little bit more concerned with is I think that it comes from the offense. You know, and this is Hypo's offense. He's our head coach. How much is he willing to change what his offense is for us to be successful? That's the part that, you know, I don't know how much faith I necessarily have in it at this point. I got to see it. Like, I got to see him making some moves and doing some different things to make those changes for us to be successful moving forward. But that's my biggest thing is with the scheme. Once people can figure out your scheme, you have no counter to it. The talent is not going to get you there. Nico balled out. Nico's not a problem. I think that our wide receivers could have played better, but we didn't always put them in the best positions to make those plays. So sorry to go on the soapbox right there, y'all, but I want to make sure I can get out all these thoughts. Okay, so let me go on down to the next one. Right here from Big Dog's Got to Eat, saying Miles Kitselman coming back would be a huge win for Tennessee. Would still be nice to get another stud wide receiver to complement Mike Matthews. Yeah, I think that is going to be definitely a point of emphasis. You know, I talked about Branch from USC, who would probably be more of a slot wide receiver. I don't know how realistic it is just to bring in someone like that, because then guys like Braylon Staley, how are they going to feel about that, right? Like, you're bringing in a stud at that position. I think that Braylon Staley is one of those guys too. Like we talked about with Squirrel, how is he going to feel? There's a very fine line, but we do have to go out and find somebody that's going to fit this system and fit this scheme and things like that. From Alex NU saying big changes need to be honest reffing. Okay. Not sure what you mean by that, but also from Big Dog's Got to Eat. What do you think about strength and conditioning of this team? A lot of the guys looked almost out of shape when warming up at the Ohio State game. Yeah, so excuse me. I think first and foremost, y'all, whenever we came out, and I didn't see it this way at first, but I'm talking to my pops on the following day, and he brought up a really good point. Us doing all of that, like with the shirts off out there in the cold, it would have looked a lot different if we would have at least been competitive in that game or won. But if you come out and if you get blown out, to me, it says that our head was in the wrong space. That's first and foremost. So I know that you're asking about just the strength and all that. I think that we're fine there. I really do. I mean, offensive linemen, they don't look like skill players with their shirts off. Like, that's just how and they're still strong. Like, if you watch like strongman competitions where they're more like power lifters, that's what the offensive linemen are going to be more built like. And that's how they're strong. They're in really good shape. Trust me, they're in great shape. But they might not look it with their shirts off. So either way, I think that the biggest takeaway for me with all of that was, hey man, where's the coaches at to reel our guys in and say, hey, look, y'all are focused on the wrong stuff. The weather is a non-factor. You shouldn't care how cold it is, how hot it is. We ain't worried about that. We don't even care. And to me, it also shows that we're paying too much attention to the outside noise. Our players are not locked in. They're not dialed in. That's another Coach Hypo thing. That's, I think, a big part of the reason that Tennessee has not been as successful and consistent on the road. He's got to find a way to stop being so laid back. You got to, hey, look, man, if you got to turn into a daggum drill sergeant, hey, you're going to be inside of your room all day long. You know what I'm saying? You got, like an hour of visiting time or whatever. You got to try to tighten it up just a little bit more, because I think that we are too laid back on the road. So, and we can't be focusing on the outside noise. But long story short, I think that the strength staff is doing a good job, man. We were good with injuries. We had some. You're always going to have some playing football, but it wasn't as bad as some of these other programs. So I think that they are doing a very, very good job. I haven't seen anything to me that's an indication that, we're just straight up physically outmatched on a consistent basis or any of that type of stuff. I think that we're doing a good job there. Let me get to Ricky Williams saying Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you. Let's see if we can get to some new people. All right, so right here, actually, Big Dog's Got to Eat is saying KC Concepcion. I wasn't overly impressed with him. I know that people really want to bring him in. I wasn't, I think that he's, there's nobody that I feel like he's just like better than on our current roster, even with all the losses. I'm not overly impressed. I think that he's a good player, but people don't understand how much talent this team actually has and how underutilized it's starting to get. It's because we can't really find any offensive success because we're kind of sticking to the same stuff. But from Ricky Williams saying 10 million more on NIL. Yeah, that would be nice. Obviously, this day and age, NIL is huge. I can't be counting people's pockets. I don't know how much money Tennessee is actually working with. I know that we have one of the better NILs. I know that we can find the money because our fans are passionate. We have really big time donors, obviously, that would probably want to help out. But I do think that Hypo, if he wants to get more money allocated to this team, people will do it. But you got to show, hey, look, these are the changes that I'm willing to make so that we can, this is what I've seen. this is what's going to happen. And I'm just speculating. That's probably what people will want to see. So he needs to have a good game plan for that to get some more money. Let's try to get to some more people right here. All right, so from Brian Lemons, we must get a wide receiver that can take a hitch to the house or take a hitch to a house call for sure. Every play, the D has to make sure they know their coverage based off where they're lined up. Okay, so I think that that's a really good point for us to actually flip this on over. And I hope that y'all can see this. Hopefully you can see this pretty well. But these are going to be, our coverages or the coverages that the offense has faced the most, the top 4 coverages. And I have what we saw on the season and then what we saw versus the Buckeyes. So up at the top, we have cover 4. So cover 4, y'all, is just a deeper coverage. That means that teams are taking away that deep pass from Tennessee and making us have to sustain the drives, whether it's with running the football, which I think Tennessee needs to stick to a little bit more, especially in these bigger games. Like we said, I wanted to see 40 plus, maybe even 50 plus runs in this game. Now we know that D. Sam didn't really play, so that might be a part of the reason that we didn't run the football as much. We also got down pretty quickly, but I think that if we, at least on that second drive, come out and we're going to run the ball, and let the defense figure out what the heck they're doing wrong, and kind of beat the Buckeyes front up a little bit more. Same thing could be said about Georgia. I want to say that we ran the football maybe like 20-something times in the first half versus UGA, and only like 12 in the second half. We got to stick to the run, but we had to be able to sustain the drives, and sticking to the run's a big part of it, but also the underneath stuff, the quick game stuff, the 3-step drop stuff, slants, drags, which we barely ever run, crossing routes. There's a lot of different things that Tennessee can do. Also, spreading the field out, it minimizes the different routes that a team can run. You've got to be able to bunch things up because it opens up that route tree. You won't get that same, 4 or 5 people playing deep in cover 4 like what we have gotten spreading things out. It's too easy, I think, to, slow down what Tennessee likes to do. But actually, let me go to my notes right here, y'all, so I can tell you. So on the season, we saw quarters coverage, which is cover 4, about 31.5% of the time. So more than any other coverage. The second most coverage that we saw is cover 3, which is another deep coverage. But it protects the middle of the field and it gives you the short and outside stuff. It's very similar to cover 4, just as far as the places that will be open. But we saw cover 3 about 27% of the time. We saw cover 2 12.5% of the time. And we saw cover 1 9.6% of the time. Now, we have to also find ways to isolate. So Tennessee does a whole lot of 2x1 sets or 3x1 sets where there's just one wide receiver on one side or one passing threat on one side. That's a great way to get pretty much an automatic one-on-one coverage. You know what I'm saying? We talked a whole lot about that 12 personnel. Bunch some stuff up. You can have one wide receiver on one side, another one on the other side. Teams have got to bring the safeties down into the box to try to have positive numbers for their defense to slow that run down, because it's always got to be stop the run first. You're going to have some cornerbacks that are playing off coverage, and we knew that the Buckeyes cornerbacks were bad, and they've been bad all season. We just didn't take advantage of them down the field, but we'll see Oregon do it. Oregon's going to do it just like they did in the previous game, and even though their cornerbacks play it off coverage, you can run right by them, just double move them, whatever. They're going to hold you, they're going to grab you. So Tennessee's got to do a better job of that in these bigger moments, in these bigger games. We need to be taking, I would say, 7 to 8 deep shots a game and dictating that one-on-one coverage. We've got to get a lot better at dictating what the defense is going to give to us and the matchups that we want, as opposed to them being able to dictate to us, what we're going to do. But that's pretty much it for the coverages that we've seen on the season. Now, versus the Buckeyes is going to be right up under it. What we saw from them was mostly quarters coverage, so at 20%. So that's a little bit less than what Tennessee would normally see. And then we saw cover 2 at about 20%. So that is about 8% more than what Tennessee is used to seeing. Cover 2, I think, is a pretty good coverage to run versus Tennessee. I don't know why more teams don't run that, but Nico did find some success throwing the football. And man, look, Nico is just like, his arm talent is unbelievable. To see him be able to flick his wrist and throw the ball in between a safety playing over the top and a cornerback playing underneath in cover 2, and literally just looked around, saw it, boom, flicked it, and it's a perfect pass. I mean, he's unbelievable. So we have to really build. We have to build around him, and I think that the cover 2 thing is going to be something that Tennessee should be able to, have a whole lot of success against moving forward. But then we saw cover 3 at about 17, almost 18% of the time versus the Buckeyes. So that's also less than what Tennessee is used to seeing. And then we saw cover one also at the exact same percent at about 18%. So, again, we just did not take advantage of the outside stuff. We have got to open up our playbook. We had to do a lot better job with the pre-snap movements. What you'll notice with pretty much every team that you watch play, on pretty much any level, college, pro, whatever, is a lot of pre-snap movement. Like you'll shift, you'll motion back and forth. And Tennessee just doesn't do that. That's a part of Josh Heupel's offense is not a lot of pre-snap movement. Now, the weird thing is we saw that in certain games this season where the pre-snap movement is happening, where we're kind of, like getting leverage on a defense based off of the pre-snap movement. A little bit more misdirection would also be good. I think that Tennessee needs to upgrade our run-pass option game where we can put more stress on those safeties and put them into a bigger conflict so that they have to really declare down to the box or, back into coverage, because a lot of what Tennessee likes to do with those wide spreads and, with those wide splits and things like that is to see what the box numbers are. If it's a lighter box, Tennessee wants to run. And teams understand that. So they show a light box, but they have safeties coming down and playing run on the snap. That is a schematical problem, and we've got to find ways to counteract that. I'm not getting paid to, sit here and figure all of it out, but I gave you a couple of things that I think Tennessee could do. I would also love to see us run some more outside zone. We don't run nearly enough of that. Most of our running plays have been inside zone. Now, we actually ran more outside zone versus the Buckeyes than I think we have over the course of this season. But we've got to try to hit those edges more. We've definitely got to use Nico's legs more because, again, that right there will give you better numbers. And we've got to know our own tendencies. We've got to self-scout better because there's no reason that the Buckeyes safety, I think it was Hancock or, whatever, comes out and says, hey, we knew that in this look, if we did this look on defense, then Tennessee was going to run a speed option. And we had guys on both sides sitting on it. I go back and I'm watching the film and I'm like, oh, yeah, I see it. Like they took Nico, right? They took Nico out with Caleb Downs, and then they had an end right there to stop that run too. So we've got to do better there. That's on Heupel. That's some things that I think that he can change. It doesn't have to be dramatic changes. It's pretty easy changes. It's just up to, will he stop being so stubborn? Will he kind of like swallow his pride? I would love to see him bring in some sort of an offensive, maybe like game manager or like play calling coordinator from the outside. That's what we need. We need more outside voices because it's gotten too stale. You can't just sit around with the same people and try to come up with some new stuff. Sometimes you need some fresh voices. It's time for Coach Heupel to go do that. He's got to let it go. I know he wanted to try to keep this offense like top secret. It's not a secret no more. People know. Okay, people have figured it out. So I think that Heupel wants to win bad enough that he will try to make some of those changes. But let's move on. Let's move on to the next part right here, okay? Because I want to talk about Tennessee's defense. And these are the pass blitz tendencies from our defense this season. What you will see up at the top is that first and foremost, let me just tell you this. We blitzed about 34% of the time on average over the course of this season. So versus the Buckeyes, we only blitzed 24% of the time. The stunts typically would come in about 18.2% of the time, and the stunts versus the Buckeyes was at 19.4%. So I'm not mad with upping the stunts. The stunts is just the lineman up front moving to different gaps on the snap and things like that. Running games where, people will start off playing it in and then, they might end up on the other side of the line of scrimmage, just things like that. So, I do think that Tennessee needs to do a much better job of dialing up blitzes. We relied too much over the course of this season just with our front four to be able to get pressure. And to me, you're putting them in a really bad spot. If you come into every game and you know that, the national media and everybody else is talking about how good that front four is, then the last thing that you want to do is give them confidence that they can block them. I would start the games off blitzing more. And this right here is just showing you the, amount of times that we actually blitzed and brought different amounts of people. So right here, we only brought 5 people on average about 64% of the time within our blitz schemes, right? So this is still within that about 34% blitzes per game. And we only brought 6, 19.4% of the time. Doesn't like we ever brought 7. Sometimes you got to bring more than that. Sometimes you need to bring 7. So if you look at what we did versus the Buckeyes, again, man, we're blitzing at about 24% of the time versus them. These are just the pass blitzes, though. So we're bringing 5 about 62.5% of the time. So we blitzed a little bit less with 5-man pressures versus the Buckeyes. We didn't bring any 6-man pressures. Now, we did talk about how the Buckeyes do a good job versus the blitzes pregame. That's very true. We said it looks like if you drop 8 and only bring 3, then you have a better opportunity. But the problem is you have to also look at the psychology of a game. Maybe start off blitzing a lot and make the quarterback feel you and then start to drop off. To me, that would have made more sense. And hopefully that's something that Coach Tim Banks will try to implement moving forward, man. Like, he's going to have to bring more pressure. He's going to have to get a lot more exotic with the coverages. And with the blitzes. And that's what we were talking about earlier with the safeties. We need better covered safeties. We need probably two, better cover linebackers. I think we've got some good true freshmen coming in. I think that Arion Carter has looked good doing it. We've got some guys that hopefully they can get better at doing it over the course of the offseason. But whenever you have two cornerbacks that are really, really good in coverage, that means that you can start to bring more pressure and trust them on the outside. Like, you can trust them, but you have to be able to affect the quarterback. And if you're not able to get home with 4, then something needs to be changed there. I also think that we need to work on, just with everybody in pass rushing, doing a better job of actually beating the person that's blocking you. We don't have enough counter moves in any of that type of stuff. Work on some, spin moves and things. We're pretty much saying, hey, look, we're going to run these stunts, and the stunt is what's going to get us open, or it's going to get us, able to get to the quarterback. But even with our linebackers, they don't look very good getting off blocks and, blitzing and stuff. We got to work on that. So if you got to hire somebody else to come in and help that happen, then that's fine. But we definitely need to start blitzing more. Tim Banks used to blitz a ton. I don't know why he got away from it. I mean, I do. Again, he thought that we could play more coverage and only bring 4. That's the best way to play. But if you're not getting the pressure, then you got to start to dial some stuff up. And I mean, that's pretty much it for me as far as just like the major changes that I feel like need to be made. I'm going to see if I can get back up to some of these chats. I think that I might have left off right here with David T saying spend $16 million this year, and we might get in the title game. Still in Bears 3 days later. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard for me to, overlook this with Coach Heupel, just because he had the opportunity. There's no reason that we get beat the way that we just got beat. Absolutely no reason. And we got these Buckeye fans beating their chest and stuff. And I mean, come on, dude. Like, you just gave them that game. You played right into their hands. That can't happen. And it's happened too many times with this staff. I thought that they had figured it out, but yeah, maybe spending $16 million. I don't know how much we spent last season, but yeah, we have to spend to go out and get the players that we need. But I do think that the roster is going to be good. We've got some good talent coming in. We've just got to play to the strength of our team. We've got to put them in the best situations to win. If that means, hey, we're going to take more shots, we're going to blitz more, maybe we're going to kind of, boom or bust sort of a deal. Do a little bit more of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, do some more of that. We got to stop being so kind of like conservative with our game plan, because while our roster is talented, it still ain't, it's not where the Buckeyes roster is. It's not where Georgia's is. It's not where Alabama's is. Their roster will always be better. And yeah, we beat Bama, but sometimes you have to understand who you're playing up against, what their tendencies are, and you got to play to your strengths. So I think that for me, that's the bigger thing. It's a lot more about just like the coaching and the scheme. From Brian Lemons, if guys are scared of competition, they need to go or step down a level at every position. We need competition for sure. And, this is the NIL era. So I don't know if I would phrase it as necessarily people are scared of competition, but I think that that's a pretty good way to say it. But yeah, people want to play. People know that, hey, I can go make more money somewhere else. And I know that if I see the field, I have a better opportunity of making it to that next level. So it is a business. You're not going to see a whole lot of folks sticking around just because they love the teams anymore. That's just. And really, I think that you probably would have seen the same thing before. A lot of those guys were staying because they couldn't do nothing else, So I'm not like against the transfer portal. I'm not really against NIL. There's some things that need to be changed. I do think, but I am for the players having a say and having more power than they've had previously, because all the power was with the coaches and with all the big wigs and stuff. And I don't think that that's right. Let's get to Austin Roller saying, so the people on the left are potential returning guys. Yes. Is Josh Thompson trending to us? Yes, he is. It seems like we lost the trenches battle really bad against OSU. 100% we did. So I would love to see us get some dogs there. Yeah, so those are all excellent points. And actually, I can go back to that for those of y'all that might just be coming in and maybe you missed it. But so everyone on the left are the players that we are expected to return. It's not official. This is coming from the insiders. This is what they feel at this point. Subject to change any day. But that looks good to me. And then obviously there will be some more that are expected to probably stick around. This is just the ones that they kind of highlighted. So on the right, these are the transfer portal players. Wendell Moy is signed with our Vols. And up under that, we have Josh Thompson, the guard from Northwestern, who is expected. It sounds like we're trending in the right direction. It sounds like we're trending maybe better than anybody else. Again, we don't know what's going to fully happen. So don't take it like he is going to come. it still has to happen before it's solid. But we're in a really good spot right there. He can play guard or right tackle, and maybe any tackle that we need. So very, very versatile player, and he's really good. Then we're talking about the wide receiver, safety, and running back. That's some spots that I think Tennessee will try to target in the portal. All right, let's get to some more. Let's get to some more from Brent Williams. Thank you for your talks. Yes, the Vols need some changes and adjust the system on both sides. Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad that you do enjoy these talks. And yeah, I agree. Changes need to be made. I think that the staff knows that too. I think that they get it. So we'll see. Will they make the changes necessary? Again, I don't think it has to be too much, but I think that there's a lot of little ones that need to be made. From Austin Roller, it's that 3-3-5 where teams have elite defenders on the ball. Every team we played that had those elite linemen, it just didn't seem to work. Yeah, you know what? And that's an excellent point. That's something I had talked about before with Georgia. And I think back in 2022 and 2021 as well, that was very true with Georgia. But there really isn't, in talking about that odd man front, with the 3-man front, whether it's a 3-3-5 or whether it's a 3-2-6 or whatever it is, I think that the biggest thing that really slows down Tennessee's offense that might make our offensive line look a little bit worse in certain situations, because keep in mind, the Buckeyes did not run that odd man front. They ran their normal four base down linemen, and we couldn't, that was a whole different deal to me. But the whole point here is I think that it's more with the scheme of Tennessee's offense down the field. The quarterbacks have nowhere to go. People were very hard on Joe Milton last season, but it's the same stuff. It's not, it's more about our scheme. We've got to find ways to beat those sorts of looks or to get teams out of those sorts of looks and just run I don't want to say like a regular offense, but Hypo's going to have to get some more ideas in. And until he does that, it's always going to look like it, because if teams can only, we'll say, bring 3 and drop 8 and no one's getting open, that's a huge problem. Or if they can show, hey, we're only bringing 3, but bring more bodies, and now we don't have any outlets or, underneath stuff to throw, what the hell is Nico supposed to do? The offensive line can only hold up for so long. Even though we had 5 stars across the board, the offensive line is only going to hold up for so long. People in coverage will only hold up for so long, even if they're 5-star, secondary players. You've got to be able to affect, you have to have some things on offense where you can hit it quick. I think that Tennessee needs to try to work more of the quick game. If it's me, but see, I like to do overkill. If it was me, I would build the team. Hey, look, we have a very strong offensive line, but we're still going to 3-step drop you. We're still getting the ball out of our hands quickly. Make the whole team look good. Keep things moving in a very positive way. And once you start to come up, then we'll max protect. We'll go down the field because we like our matchups one-on-one with any of our guys, right? It's very hard to cover down the field one-on-one with guys that are 6'5" and can run. That should be a nightmare. So anyway, that's kind of where I'm at with that. Let's see if we can get to some more of these. Right here from Tennessee Ticketmaster says, we won't win a national championship with 3- and 4-star players. Yeah, you always need to get better. But I would also show you Michigan, because Michigan did that. Michigan wasn't a very talented football team when they won it a few years ago. But you know what Michigan did? They played to their strengths. I can even, I could also point to you. And, I think the college football and pro football is very, very different. It's a completely different sport. But just for like argument's sake, look at the Patriots, right? They had a very good quarterback. They had Brady, who a lot of folks say is the GOAT. They were very good up front, but their skill players were, look, y'all will disagree with me on this, but I'm going to tell you right here, right now, we have a lot of skilled players on this team playing at wide receiver that are better than those little hobbits that were playing wide receiver for the Patriots in years where they won the Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? Or at least where they were a Super Bowl contending team. See, it's not about it's about being able to adjust what you do. It's about starting off up front on both fronts and then saying, hey, we're going to adjust who we are based off of our personnel a little bit here and there every single season. That's what that's what Belichick did. That's what Andy Reid does. That's what Nick Saban did for a long time. Think about all the different coordinators that he had come in and out. Think about them kind of starting off as a 3-4 team and moving to a 3-3-5 team. They kept that odd man front, but they were still pretty much the same principles of who they are fundamentally. But you got to switch things up. And in the offensive scheme, it changed up a lot. So you have to be able to do that as a head coach. That's one of the problems, I believe, with having a coach, Obviously, a coach pretty much is going to be more of an offensive-minded or defensive-minded coach, but can you adjust? Can you change with the times? Because this offense for Coach Heupel, it worked very well before, but once people start to figure it out, it's time to change, right? We saw the same thing with Coach Former. He didn't want to change. And I love Coach Former. He's still my favorite Tennessee coach. You know, he's the coach that I grew up with. But, you know, you have to be able to change. If you can't change, then you're going to stop having success. So will Heupel do it? To me, that's what I'm looking at. That's why I said before, it's not that I want to fire him, or it's not that I think he's a terrible coach or nothing. It's not that I'm not grateful for what he's done, but I see what's happening. Will he see it and will he make those changes? If he doesn't, for me, it would be time to start trying to find somebody else. And again, I'm not trying to say, you know, worst culture. I'm not saying none of that. Understand what I am saying. Changes need to be made. If he can't make them, then we got to start looking for somebody that can kind of pick up where he left off at, you know, or else we're going to be stuck doing the same stuff every single year. We're going to be banging our heads against the wall. You do not do the same thing and expect different results. That's the definition of insanity. You got to switch some things up. All right. So right here from Devontae Bann saying we need a new offensive coordinator. I don't even know if that's fully the case. I do think that, you know, because I like Coach Halsley. I think he's a really good guy, but I understand what you're saying right there because, yeah, he pretty much came up under Heupel. So I think that they are kind of like they're very like-minded. We need fresh ideas, fresh thoughts. Heupel's got to go outside of what we have right now, and find somebody that will give us some fresh ideas. So again, I think that maybe you could keep Halsley and just add like a play calling coordinator, because I don't think that Heupel's going to get rid of Halsley. I don't think that that's going to happen. So I'm already looking at some alternatives to what maybe Coach Heupel could do so that we can actually have success. I actually might have missed some right here, y'all. Let me see. All right, so I think I missed this one right here from Nkosi Kangi Wazambi. Okay, interesting name. I don't know what that means. I hope that you don't have me up here saying some bad words. But I heard that the young wide receiver Williams from Alabama hit the portal. Is this true? So yeah, I've seen that he has hit it, but then I've seen that he didn't hit it. So I don't know what's going on right there. I don't know if we would bring in a player like that. You know, just because that would disrupt that room, especially early on. And guys like that, you kind of have to get early on. If we do that, who's going to leave? You know, because somebody's probably going to leave because people want to play. We have really good talent that we need to get out on the field more. Mike Matthews should have played more this season. I know that Braylon Staley was banged up a lot. I would have loved to have seen him whenever he was healthy get out on the field more. So just to, you know, make kind of like a long answer to try to wrap up that long answer. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if that's a player that Tennessee would necessarily target. From Unsung, what's going on, Unsung? Saying OSU has 16 5-stars and 55 4-star players. They only have 14 3-stars. Tennessee has more 3-star players than 4 and 5-star. That's the difference. So that's actually not true. So Tennessee actually has a 54% blue chip ratio if you're going, I think, based off of, it might be On 3, it might be 24/7 Sports. So we actually do have more blue chip caliber players than we have 3-star caliber players. And I get it. That is a difference. But is it a 28-point difference in a game like that? It's not. I promise you it's not. It's just not. That's a game where we got out-coached. That's the biggest problem is with the coaching. And to me, it's even more inexcusable to get out-coached by that staff, because I do feel like Oregon is about to show and prove again, you know, how bad that staff actually is. Michigan does it all the time. Michigan has nowhere near the amount of talent that the Buckeyes do, but they beat them. You know, they beat them 4 years in a row. They'll probably do it 5 years in a row. But the whole point there is that I feel you. I really, really do. You always want to get more talent, but this team had enough talent, and we had an offense that, if it was utilized correctly, if we were willing to make those changes, if the defense was willing to be more how it used to be, where we're going to bring the pressure, even with a strong front four, and keep on rotating in bodies and bring that pressure in waves, then, that's a game that I think that Tennessee could have won. I'm not going to say that Tennessee would have won it, but it would have been a lot more competitive. Being non-competitive in any of these games at this point for Coach Heupel is unacceptable to me. That is on him. That is coaching. We have too many good players. Devontae Bann saying we need okay, I think we already got to that one. All right, let's come on down to Brent Williams. Too many flags, silly mistakes. Yeah, we did have some flags and mistakes. I don't even think that was a big issue in this game, honestly speaking. Personally, Archer452, hey guys, OSU fan here. We haven't given up passing touchdowns since that Oregon game, which was 7 games ago. Hey, Archer, I'm not quite sure why you're here, because honestly, thank you for that. I don't care. I don't think anyone here gives a damn about y'all. Why don't you go to a Buckeye channel And why don't you talk about your stuff there? And actually, I'm just going ahead and block you. And if you are a Buckeye fan, bro, it's too close to Christmas. I'm just going to ban you. I'm just going to block you because I could not care any less about anything that you have to say, whether it's good or bad. Let's get that understood. But actually, just to kind of get back to what he said, I don't give a damn if you didn't give up any passing touchdowns or not. What difference does that make for anything that we're saying? Your cornerbacks are trash. Your cornerbacks are terrible. That's really what happened, and Tennessee just did not exploit it. We just did not take advantage of it. And a part of the reason for that was because we couldn't block you up front. So, yeah, I mean, that obviously, y'all whipped us up front on the right side of the line of scrimmage, especially with those tackles. But I think everybody else kind of played solid. And really, I might go through y'all and kind of show y'all some of the things that P and I have been looking at and clip up some stuff for you to show you all the times that Tennessee actually was very dominant. It was just a few small places, but it's a game of inches. If you have a few people that are off, if you can't do it, consistently across the board, this is what can happen. And if you also, on top of that, if you're not calling the correct plays and all that, this is the type of stuff that can happen. From Eddie the Don, will Coach Hype make any necessary staff changes? Also, what's our most pressing needs in the portal? So I actually have that up right here for you. This is just my opinion. We don't have defensive tackle up here, but that is another spot that I think Tennessee still needs to target. And we didn't talk too much about that, but we were supposed to earlier. So I really like that guy from LSU. I think his last name is Suggs. I don't know. It sounds like he's not really trending towards our Vols, but I love his game. I love him a lot. I hope that we can somehow get him. We got to find, I think, one, maybe two more players at the defensive tackle spot. And then the other one from Wisconsin, his last name is Thompson, too. Sounds like he's not really trending towards Tennessee either, but he will be another good, solid piece. But right now, at defensive tackle, we're talking about a lot of underclassmen probably having to play some pretty significant roles. But the great news is, y'all, we got some dudes up there. I think that Marion Dodd can play at defensive tackle at a really high level. We'll have a video coming out here pretty soon kind of highlighting him. And also, I think that Campbell looks really good. Ethan Ullett looks really good. Charles House. So it's some guys that look good up front, that will be coming in. Can they pick up the system quick enough? Can they be physically ready quick enough? I think that they're already pretty close. So Tennessee should be fine there. But outside of that, I would say maybe one more guard. So we can see the ones. Wendell Moore, he's already coming to Tennessee. Josh Thompson would be good. It would be even better if Andre Kerr could also come back. But I think that you want at least one of those two guys to come back. But, we do have, I think, good depth at that position. I really like Sham at that position as well. And then, these other ones, I would say safety, running back, wide receiver. Those will be the spots that I feel like Tennessee should try to target. Now let's get to a few more of these from Bow Hunting 101. What's up, Bull and everybody? Go Vols. What's going on, Bow Hunting? Thank you for joining us. Happy holidays to you. From Bennett Burris saying our defensive line was phenomenal this year in stopping the run. Yes, it definitely was, but I was extremely disappointed in our strong side defensive ends pass rush. So you know what? I think that Tyree West did a really good job. Actually, let's go ahead and pull up because I do have the stats up here. Let's pull up these stats. Let's talk about that because I think that's an interesting point. I think that our strong side defensive ends, well, maybe not all of them from top to bottom. Let's organize this based off of the sacks real quick. All right. So James Pierce was leading the team in sacks with 7.5. Omar Nomalot at defensive tackle. He's gone. Both of those guys will be gone. He had 4 sacks. Then we had Don Bailey, who is a strong side DN. He had 2. Jason Jenkins, strong side DN. He had 2. Tyree West, strong side DN. He had 2. And then we've got Jackson Moore, defensive tackle. He'll be back with 2. Bryson Eason, defensive tackle. He's supposed to be back 1.5. Joshua Josephs. Leo, he's supposed to be back with 1.5. Those are the main guys right there, right? So I would actually say that our strong side DNs, obviously, if you're just looking at that, they got more pressure than our Leos did. And some of that is going to be based off of the fact that I think that we drop our Leos into coverage a little bit too much. Let's let them go hunt. And if they're not going to go hunt, then let's bring somebody like let's blitz or like let's do something. Well, I think that we dropped them into coverage way too much. I wish that I had those numbers to show you how often that we did drop them into coverage. But man, if you got guys that can rush the passer, let them rush the passer. Like let them do what they're good at. I think that we got a little bit too cute, a little bit too fancy in too many situations. But I'll go ahead and get rid of that. Let me pull up. Let me get to some more of these chats. But hey, these are really good thoughts from everybody. From Tyler Bradburn saying, can we get an OC from the transfer portal? Yeah, that's funny stuff. I know a lot of people want to get a new offensive coordinator. I just don't know that that's going to happen. I just don't believe that that's going to happen. Tennessee Ticketmasters is only going to get harder to win the SEC next season. I agree. I think that our schedule might be more difficult for us next season because we have to go on the road to some of these tougher places. And saying that everyone is adding talent and will be lucky to win 8 to 9 games. Coaches need to improve play calling. The hype needs to step back. Yeah, he either needs to step back or step up. You know what I'm saying? I don't know because I don't know the ins and outs of exactly what's going on. Maybe some people in there have some good ideas that Hypo's not letting fly. I don't know, but yeah, we do need some changes. I'd be lying to you if I said coming off of this loss that I have a lot of confidence that this team will make it to the playoffs next season. I think that we're talented enough to do it. I think that we can make the changes to do it. I just don't have the confidence that the changes will be made because it seems like we're making changes a little bit too slowly. We'll see. If the changes get made, then make no mistake about it, Tennessee can be even better next season. I sincerely believe that. But if the changes aren't made, then yeah, there's a chance that we could be even worse. So Bo Honey 101 saying I was ticked off about the loss the other day. I still am. But I look back at the season and we won 10 games. I know we have a lot to improve on, but I believe in Coach Heupel. Yeah. So I do believe in Coach Heupel. I just that's an excellent point. Yeah, I mean, it's great that we made it to the playoffs. We have to celebrate that type of success, but I want to see him make those changes. So I'm gonna kind of hold my breath until he does because I'm seeing it. I think that a lot of us are seeing it. He's got to make them. He has to. If he doesn't make them, I'm gonna start to lose faith, man. I'm just gonna tell you. I'm just gonna tell you because a lot of the success that he's had previously, you have to understand it was based off of teams not knowing how to stop this offense. Teams are figuring it out. I think there's more teams every year that are figuring this stuff out. So we'll see less and less success if we do not make those changes, and we could start to go backwards. We got to get some fresh ideas from SEC football. Michigan and Jim Harbaugh coaching them. Michigan had Jim Harbaugh coaching them. Yeah, that's the thing. That was my whole point in bringing that up. Is that if Michigan can do it with less talent than a lot of these teams, you understand that's coaching, and they wasn't doing nothing fancy. There was ground and pound. You know what's coming. You know what I'm saying? We have a quarterback that's kind of mobile. That's something else. Tennessee didn't roll Nico out enough. If you know that you're constantly getting pressure from the right side, roll him out to the left. Roll him out to the left. Set up a run, wide to the right so that you have a wide field to the left and roll him out to the left. That it's just like little stuff there's a lot of little stuff that we could have done. But yeah, Michigan just played to their strengths. They had a very, very stout defense. I think that they coached those guys up. It wasn't a whole lot of highly rated players. There were several, but it wasn't like they had a bunch of juggernauts up there. They coached those players up on the front, on all three levels. Tennessee, I think, does a good job of coaching things up, but this season, because the scheme was so still, we had to mix things up. I know I keep on saying that, but that's the biggest takeaway. Yeah, the coaching has to be better. We got to mix things up. Brian Lemons, no offense is made for 16 play touchdown drives. Lines is or 16 play 16. All right, 16 play touchdown drives. Lines, it's against OSU. That's not a recipe for offensive success. So I disagree with that thoroughly, dude. Brian, I disagree with that thoroughly. I understand where you're coming from. That's difficult to do, but I disagree with it. And it's for the same reasons that I brought to y'all earlier. Like I told you that we could run on the Buckeyes, and we did. We just didn't run it as much. I didn't know that we was going to be without D. Samp. That does make a difference, but we could keep on running the ball on them. Just keep running it. Just keep running it. We were blocking their linebackers very well. We sincerely did. It was the same thing that we always see. Most of the tackles were made by their safeties and stuff. It was made from third level players. So sometimes you got to, hey, if it's 3-4 yards every play, keep on doing it. If it's, hey, 3-4 yards or, whatever, and then we're going to run a drag, run a hitch, run a slant, quick stuff. Keep on doing it. You can do that. I'm telling you, that defense is not all that. They look good versus us, but we've seen Arkansas's defense look really good versus us. Is Arkansas's defense all that? No, it's not. Like, it's just whenever you have a good recipe to stop our scheme, that's where the problem is, because we don't have a counter to it. So I do think that you can sustain those long drives. Yeah, that's a tough ask, 16 plays, but it is doable. You can go 16 plays and at least get 3. That would have been better than what we did going 3 and out so many times, because that's what happened. It's because we did not play to our strengths. And that's happened too many times up under Coach Heupel. He's been obviously a lot better than he has been bad, he's been good more times than he's been bad. But we've got to get more consistent. We can't just have games where we're laying eggs. Bo Hutton also said, at ACC football, that Harbaugh lost some games he should have won. Yeah, he did. He did. Actually, I don't even know. I don't know their team well enough to even say that for sure. I'm sure that he probably did. And it took him some time. But the one thing that I will say about him is that I never fully felt like – now, see, with them, anytime that I watched them, it felt more like, hey, they just need more talent. You feel like, hey, he needs more of his guys. He's got to get his system more in place. I didn't feel like teams just were stopping him based off of the scheme. It's different because I think even with a team full of 5-stars, Tennessee would struggle a lot versus teams that play the types of defenses that they've played against us. I really do, because no one's getting open. You know what I'm saying? From Jeff Mercer, but Dylan Sampson was a 3-star. Yes, he was. He was a 3-star running back. So, you can kind of coach things up and, and get guys going. That's something that the staff has to continue to do. Deborah P saying, I would like to see us get some leadership dogs for sure. Players and coaches need to hold each other accountable. Al Wilson would have a half-ass player pin in the locker room and giving them what for. Yeah. So I do think that that's something else that this team really needs. And that's something I could tell you about a guy like Jaden, the linebacker that's coming from Buford. He's a guy that I know he will do that. If you're not doing what you're supposed to do, he will physically reprimand you. Now, he's going to be a true freshman next season, so I don't know if he's going to be doing that next year. But at some point, he could be one of those players. I think we have a lot of guys that, have that dog in them that are going to say, look, you got to step it up. And I also feel like Nico's gotten to that point now. I saw, man, sometimes with players that are so good like Nico is, that are so talented, we already knew that he was a dog. That would never any question about that for me. But we knew that he, maybe this was kind of a good thing, because I think that he said, hey, I'm about to take over. Like, if you look at that last touchdown, he barely even faked the handoff. He said, look, get out my way. He's pushing people out the way. I'm going to go get this touchdown. So I think that where we heard from Coach Heupel and from some other coaches, and even from Nico himself, that he needed to work on being a little bit more vocal with this team. I think that that's about to come out now, dog. I think this leaves a bad taste in his mouth. And that's what gives me the most confidence, that Nico is a baller. He's a dog. Put the right stuff around him. You know what I'm saying? Give him the right opportunities from a coaching perspective in all 3 phases of a football game. I think that Nico can win us a national championship. I think that Nico next season will be head and shoulders above any other quarterback in this country, head and shoulders above any other player in this country. I'm saying that right here, right now, because Nico is a dog, and he's going to put in the work. So, Deborah, excellent point. I do think that Nico might be that guy or one of those guys for us next season, but we do need more for sure. All right, so let's just get to a few more of these. From Austin Roller saying, stars don't always matter. It's more about talent evaluation, and our staff has been very, very, and I mean very good about talent evaluation. We have been. We've gone out and got some guys that are underrated. And we've, in some situations, they've gotten to where we need them to be, but we still, there's more to be done. We got to do better in certain spots too, because we've missed on several players as well, and we're losing several players. Like Nathan Leacock, to me, that was a really big loss. That guy was a stud. He's going to go ball out wherever he ends up at. Sometimes that is going to happen. No reason he doesn't play at least some this season. And actually, you know what, y'all? That is going to be it. I'm just going to go on ahead and wrap this thing up. But, thank y'all so much for tuning in. I do hope that y'all have a very, very Merry Christmas. I did not mean for this video to go for an hour, but, we will have some more stuff coming out for y'all probably after Christmas. We'll take a few days off here, try to regroup and all that good stuff. But we hope that y'all are safe. We hope that y'all have a great time. And we will see you on the next one. Thanks. Peace.